First of all, I'd like to thank your, of course, first of all, Malika, to join the webinar, and of course, Mathieu and Paul. So just maybe you can introduce yourself, so to get the time for more people to join the webinar.
Yes, thank you, Frédéric. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Hi, Mathieu and Paul. I'm more than happy just to share this moment together because, of course, you are tech, we are DAM experts, and just together we will speak about the lawyer. We will speak about the IA Act. This is just to complete what we deliver today to our brands and our clients. So thank you.
Thank you, Malika. Thank you, Frédéric, for this organization and to have the opportunity to discuss about this important AI Act and watermarking that will be essential about it. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of IMATAG, and we provide invisible watermarking for images and videos.
Thank you, Mathieu.
Thank you, Malika and Frédéric, for having me on this call today. Joining Mathieu from IMATAG, I'm responsible for strategic partnership at IMATAG for the last 8 years, and working in building communities of companies that have the same kind of issues to solve in response to their clients' needs. So there's a lot of synergies between the DAM community and IMATAG and their invisible watermarking solution, as well, obviously, as with what you guys do at Activo on a daily basis. So
yeah. Thank you, Paul. By the way, we know that we have a lot of insightful talk during beginning of this year. You are also the writer of DAM News, so we have a lot of things to share. So just maybe very quickly, Malika, just because I think people they know us, but a couple of things about.
Yes, we are a consultancy company, and we deliver services around the PIM-DAM and CMS. And today this year, we have particularly proud just to announce that we are not only present in France, but even in London for the UK markets. So, and of course, we deliver services, and we have also the DAM News website, on which you will find many information and insight regarding the DAM and its ecosystem. So we are based in Paris, yes. We have a super team, many women, not only men, even if we are in the tech market. And we are helping our clients with expertise. We have also librarians to manage daily the content in the different DAM. And thanks to these librarians, we are trying to highlight this specific subject about the watermarking, about the traceability, the provenance of the asset, and of course, what we will see together with this specific article. Our clients are in different industry. We are not working in only one industry. Even the most important for us is to work with a big DAM enterprise project with different content, with different department and subsidiary, and in the press, of course, because I think we have a long expertise and experience, Frédéric, Paul, Mathieu, and me in this industry, and that's why I think we are trying just to support and to help brands to protect better their content.
Yeah, something we can also talk, because it's all about a partnership to drive vision, and of course we are so delighted this day it's a long story between us and IMATAG. It's also the opportunity to leverage French technology at the top. So thank you again, Mathieu, to be part. And something maybe we can say also, Malika, very quickly, because what we are doing is very short milestone.
Yes, even that we support to find clients to fund and to deploy their DAM solutions. An important point also is all the DAM health check. So it's important that, of course, when you deploy solutions, you need in the during months and years after that, just to make some health check on the platform in order to optimize better with the new people that are incoming during this project, your content. And during this DAM health check, we highlight also a very important, two important points. The first one is the right management. So how the DAM can protect your assets, and during the upload of the asset, during the asset lifecycle, and after when you will distribute the content. And of course, for that, we need also just to leverage the users with the channel, the training to explain all these parts.
Thank you, Malika. And of course, this is the time. So thank you, Matthew, again. So if you just very quick thoughts to highlight finally what matters for IMATAG alongside this asset lifecycle.
Yeah, so we are highly involved in providing content authenticity. So this is something that is for us essential to provide to our clients. So we are working with AFP, with Reuters, with a lot of newswires and different companies that want to prove authenticity. And so this is why we are involved in the C2PA, and why watermarking is also an important part of the C2PA, because it's relying only on metadata. And we know that on the internet, most of the metadata will be, most of the time, deleted from the files. And so the watermarking is the solution to recover this proof of authenticity. And so we design an algorithm that is highly robust. So we are scaling the system. So far we have identified more than hundreds of millions of images online. We are partnering with the digital asset management because we want to make sure we are C2PA compliant. So the DAM will receive a lot of files with C2PA information inside, and they will have to ensure and to keep this information along the modification in the digital asset management. So
I have a question for you, Mathieu, because you are speaking about C2PA. Of course, you and me, we are taking our breakfast, perhaps our dinner, speaking about C2PA, speaking about the asset protection. Yeah. But I'm not sure that everyone here, that they know what is the C2PA. Perhaps if you can just give just a definition or some use cases about what is C2PA.
I will assume everyone will know IPTC fields in the digital asset management. So this is the metadata inside the files that will describe the files, the rules, for example, for the rights, the name of the author, a lot of information.
And the IPTC, this information is traveling with the asset. It's completely embedded in the file, and they travel. So everyone, they access to this asset, they access to this metadata that is describing the asset.
Yes, and so regarding the C2PA, so what is important is that we want to know what the asset, when it travels in different software, what will happen to the asset. So if, for example, the asset is resized, modified with AI-generated content, we need a proof to be sure that it was modified with this software. So for example, if you modify your images with Gemini, you will have files with C2PA metadata that will prove that it's coming from Gemini, and you can verify this. So this is an open standard, so anyone will be able to verify that it's coming from Gemini and it is modified with Gemini. If you have files that are coming from digital camera, from Leica camera, Nikon camera, others, Pixel 10 camera, you will have also this metadata to prove this is real content. And so contrary to IPTC, we have now a proof, because IPTC, you can modify it. Anyone can just rewrite the fields. But for the C2PA, this is not the case. So you have the proof that it was exactly what is happening.
We cannot update. We cannot modify this information.
You can update, but you have to keep the provenance, the
Yes.
chain of provenance. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think something we can say for our audience, because we have a lot of buzzword, etc. So just for information, the C2PA is the coalition for content provenance and authenticity. The IPTC is the International Telecommunication Press Council, which is important. And I think something which is more important is, by the way, the IPTC is driving DAM systems. This is the only standard as we have as of today since 1965. And beyond that, I would like to highlight, and maybe Paul, because you have also this role with IMATAG, to leverage DAM, because something we are trying to do, especially during the C2PS summit, and especially this year
I have,
in Toronto.
yes, perhaps I have a question. Perhaps, Paul, you can answer to Raphael. And she's asking if C2PA is a legal obligation in France now and for any content.
I just want to make just a slight correction. C2PA is the working group. The term is more content credentials, which is what is the actual information that travels with the images. It's not a legislation right now. It's not mandatory for anyone. C2PA is a standard still being worked on, adopted by some of the biggest companies in the world: Microsoft, Google, Adobe, and as well as BBC media companies around the world, as well as camera manufacturers like Nikon or Canon or Leica, and a lot of associated software as well. So it's becoming de facto standard to display, like Matthew was saying, the provenance and whatever edits have been done into an image. It's recommended by some legislations, either about to be implemented or being talked about, mostly because there is no other equivalent of standards of adoption that on the market today. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and we can also say that today, not every DAM platforms are compatible with C2PA. We have more and more, because some are still continue to be involved in this, but all are not compatible with C2PA.
Yeah, at that moment, so and especially this is work we have to do alongside the insight we are working with Paul. We have more or less Orange Primo Photoware, and Binder is on its way. So we do believe this is the purpose of this group, by way to leverage C2A by DAM, and especially something I would like to say, it's important also, and one of us got by IMATAG, and the reason why we have this dedicated partnership with DAM system, and of course by Activo, we are super delighted to support this initiative. So, and of course, as you like it, Malika, this is in quick second final year of a subject of DAM at the Earth and with all these channels.
Yes, just quickly, what is the DAM? Of course, digital asset management. So the DAM is just an engine that we can centralize in the DAM all the asset of the company, of the agencies, and to manage all the categorization of the asset. We have also more or less, depending on the different systems, a level of EI, of agentic EI, to help for, of course, indexing this content and managing the right access of this content. And the purpose of this and the goal is to distribute this content outside the DAM also to the different websites, social media, etc. That's why, to keep the traceability and the provenance, and also to protect the asset when the expiration date is arrived, and to protect the asset regarding the fake news, the fake asset that is not really associated to the brand, is essential today, and especially when we have very optimized platform with a performance with a DAM that we can distribute easily and fastly the different assets.
Thank you, Malika. And so on our side, and especially with DAM News, we are spending the time to, of course, to analyze DAM systems, but it's all about also finally here some maturity here, that we are working for. So it's important to keep that in line, because something that we see on our side on the daily basis with a dam projects, it's not all about the technology. So it's all about many different paths. So finally, it's all about the organization, the governance, the processes, and the systems. And today, of course, this foundation is also driven more and more by AI. So this is a whole ecosystem at the end of the day. As we are used to talking, especially with Scott Brinker from Chief Martech, you have all these marketing stacks everywhere. And something which is important to keep in mind is the fact that at the end of the day, it's important you have to maintain this information alongside from the asset creation to the distribution. And the reason why by DAM News, we are very committed to say what is a DAM system. Okay, so and we have something we are calling the open specifications. It's all about finally the life cycle of the assets, processing, distribution, sharing, reporting, audit, and etc. Something also we'd like to, and I think it's important regarding a subject today, we developed since the last 2.5 years, Activo Connect, which is finally a piece of middleware to connect systems. Okay, so the idea is, of course, to first of all to help asset migrations or data migrations from DAM to DAM, or getting information from PIM or AP and CDP, etc. It's also to enhance DAM capabilities sometimes with powered by API, and also trying to, because we are close to the customers, and sometimes vendors are failing to find the right path to take in order to get the right experience. So reason why is, for example, and we are very delighted, just at that moment, we are developing this connector between IMATAG and DAM systems. So of course, it's a couple of them that will be available, just like a binder, Fontify, Orange Logic, etc. So it's important that we keep here. And maybe, Paul, you can, because you are taking this role also with IMATAG, just to give you your insight regarding this strategy regarding to connect IMATAG platform and DAM systems.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea is to simplify and make seamless the user experience, right? So making sure that you get the most value without having to put a lot of work or efforts or time into it. So by connecting the DAM system with IMATAG's invisible watermarking and monitoring services, that allows enterprises and DAM users to easily and seamlessly watermark their image, and then being able to get the results and analytics based on the results of the monitoring, all within the DAM or within any interface that they would like to use, without having to spend hours, trying to connect things. So IMATAG already has some really strong partnerships with DAM companies. You mentioned PhotoWare and Aprimo and others, we're having advanced conversation with to make that a reality in today's market.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. So this is more or less the review of Activo Connect, is to connect systems, by the way. And of course, something now, I think this is our main subject today. It's all about the provenance, or maybe regarding your experience. And finally, we shared a couple of articles on dimenews.com and NFR. Finally, regarding this main item based on the C2PA, what we can say, Paul, as of today, regarding the status finally of this standard of the C2PA.
Right. So like you mentioned on the slide here, we have the version 2 that it's been published earlier this year. Over 6,000 members that are part of the Content Authenticity Initiative, which is kind of the marketing arm of the C2PA, and then working on additional investment on the in the working group. You have to keep in mind that this is not just for photos; it's for text as well, for videos, for sound, and like Matthew was explaining a bit earlier, it's a way to provide information on the provenance of the file, so that users can identify the source of the content that they're looking at, as well as any modifications that happen to it on its way to being delivered to them. one analogy that's being used a lot, and I'm sorry for those who've heard it before, but I think it's probably the strongest one. It's think of it as a nutrition label for digital files, right? Where when you're buying food at the supermarket, you have those labels which indicates to you what is inside the box, the percentage and things like that. So that's that's similar to that. When you're looking at a file, the content credentials will show you exactly what you're looking at, what it's made of, and then obviously, like the food, you can decide to eat it or not. Or in case of digital files, you can decide if you want to trust it or not, depending on what the source is and the modification as things. So,
Monica?
Yeah, just I would like to say, if we keep also, if we stay in our subjects, you have exactly the same with the DPP, with the PIM for the provenance of the product.
yes,
Digital passport.
which will be implemented in 2 years, I think, from now, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, like we were talking about, C2PA is included into the metadata of the files, and like we all know, metadata is very brittle. When files are being shared, metadata is almost automatically being erased for legacy systems because they're trying to save some space or some weight of the file. So this is where the IMATAG solution comes into action, because it creates a binding between the image and its metadata at the source of creation, and then travels wherever that file goes with all along the chain, so that if any moment the metadata is being erased, by just reading the watermark, you can get reconnected with the associated metadata, including IPTC, like Mathieu was saying, as well as all the information embedded into the content credentials.
Yeah, and maybe I've got one question for you, Paul, because as Matthew was saying at the beginning, so you have two main use cases today, especially for photo agencies. One, just like AFP, trying to customize, and because it's not something we can do to get all devices C2PA compliance. And on the other side, so they are working, especially alongside partnership with Nikon, to develop a very advanced data workflow based on the C2PA, as we saw at UNDAM last year. On the other side, you have Reuters, which is more focused on the distribution. So what do you think this is the right path to take?
So that's a very interesting question. IMATAG actually has really 3 use cases that it's being currently used for by different types of company. Number one, with its monitoring services and the watermarking, a lot of companies, especially in the media space, use it for copyright infringement or for market intelligence. So it reveals where those files are located and what publication they're being used and how they're being used and by whom. It's also used in earned media for brands that want to trace where the communication ends up, who's using it and how they're using it. So that's what we call it in IMATAG, the monitoring service. The second use case is the leaks. So that is applied for companies that release or are about to release new products, for example, and before it's made public, they will have to share visuals, photos, or videos of their products to outside partners, resellers, point of sales, and things like that. And obviously, there's always a risk that one of these files get published on the blog or on social media before the public release of the product, which could be devastating for the brand, because it could mean millions of dollars of lost sales, since the public might stop buying their current model because they see that the new one is about to be released, so they just stop. And so the current inventory stays blocked and on the shelves because of that. So with the leak detection solution from IMATAG, each copy of the same image has a unique watermark, which is tied to a specific recipient, in which case that if there is a leak, then by reading the watermark, you can figure out who has been responsible for that leak and take appropriate measures based on that. And then the third that we are talking about today is the link to authenticity and to provenance. So with a watermark, again, every instance or copies of a files can be reunited to its original formation, including its associated metadata. Sorry, whether it's IPTC, EXIF, content credentials, C2PA, or anything else. So these are the three value proposition of IMATAG today.
Yeah, for sure. And I think something we can say by weight, so with IMATAG, we have a right technology because you can combine both of them at the end of the day, driven by IPTC. And so we are very committed really to integrate even more the technology inside the AM system. And it has even more, even more important as of today regarding whatever it's photo agency requirements, bronze requirements, bronze luxury, a couple of their vertical markets were used to play on our side by Activo. And now, of course, Malika, we have to introduce the subject.
Yes, but perhaps I have a question. If you want, we can just share the question of Julia.
Yeah.
She said, thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Julia, for your presence too. How in practical terms does a recipient of a digital asset distinguish between content credentials attached or associated with AI-generated content for Article 50 obligations and credentials attached associated to identify non-AI generated content for rights protection? Different use cases, of course.
Yeah, so yeah, I can take it because this is something that is very, I think, tricky about the C2PA, because you can have photographs with C2PA metadata that are coming from, for example, Sony or Nikon camera, and you will, in the digital asset management, edit the files, do some modification, but maybe the modification will be done with AI generating tools like Gemini. And so you will have C2PA metadata from from Google, from Gemini. So you should have the provenance. So what's important, because you have to ensure that it is your file at the beginning that was modified, and you want you own the right about it. You should have the provenance for all the modifications. So meaning that you will have the C2PA from the camera and the C2PA from Gemini. This is in theory what should happen, but this is something that is not so right now. So I tested it, and it's not exactly working this way. So this is something that will change, I think, because we should have the chain of provenance entirely when we use AI generated tools. Otherwise, people will assume that this is only AI content and not only real content that was modified. Maybe
okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And finally, so how do you see this, and especially back to the dam, what can be the right integration for any user to identify the assets? We are used to play with some metadata, even if after the years, sometimes we have some missing one, and especially the IPTC one. So do you see maybe, Paul, something as a margin or something, or a big task to do for the vendors in order to respond finally to this use case? And thank you, Julia, for the question.
Yeah, so one thing we have to keep in mind with Article 50 is the reason behind this article, right? The idea is to break the illusion of authenticity. So to stop the proliferation of content where we don't know if it's real or if it's AI generated. That's the core foundation of that article. And so we talk about visual content, but it applies to any type of AI generated content. There's two fundamental steps that a DAM user should take today regarding this article. One is checking what AI generators they're using. some of the bigger ones like Google or others are in the process of being compliant, meaning that they're tagging or marking their images as AI, or they have a watermark, or they use C2PA content credentials as well. And so making sure that whatever AI they use is already compliant with the law that's going to be in effect. And then second, to look at their DAM system that they're using and making sure that they respect that information as they come in, making sure that they don't erase metadata or modify their metadata or erase it if there's watermarks or something like that. So to make sure that that information survives the ingestion by the dam, as well as if there's any operation in the dam, to make sure that it's updated so that when it's shared outside the dam, all that information stays with that file, right? So there's a requirement to make sure that not only that information is properly ingested, but almost make sure that when it's shared outside the dam, that it's preserved as well, because otherwise there's issues of compliance and potential liabilities.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And so if we are just trying to move ahead, so what's the next milestone, especially for the end of this year?
Yeah, so there's
we have two milestones. So we have beginning of next month, and we have and the end of the year. So I think for any customer, it's a big question: what I have to do, or what I have to ask for to my vendor, and what about my content first.
Right. So August 2nd is for all the new AI companies coming out to market. December is for everybody else. But there's no reason to wait. Right? It's not because there's a little bit of time. If you're using OpenAI, you say, "Oh, right, I have maybe until December to do it." It's important to make sure that this is in place as soon as possible, so that there's no bad surprise when everything gets into a process. The EU has been arguing about how and when to start enforcing this. And so initially it was about 6 months after the implementation. Now they reduced it to 4 months. So the time frame between implementation and enforcement is getting shorter and quickly getting to us. So it's important to get this done as quickly as possible.
Maybe, Malika, you want to add something?
No, just no. My point is just to highlight this date, this timeline, because not everyone is aware about this. On our side, as just services consultancy company in the DAM, we are helping, we are supporting the brands to manage this, to inform internally people that are providing content, that are the users that are they are uploading the content about this information, because it's very important, especially when the assets are AI generated. And I agree, we have also the same question is, yes, but the asset is not completely generated by AI. We are using AI to manage something, and the result, what is the result? Is it an asset generated by AI or no? So yes, but we need to move forward about this point.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's also part of the reason why of this integration with IMATAG and DAM system, because at the end of the day, it's ready to bring in one package all this to put some technology in order to follow the laws. So by the way, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask us. We know that we are in a short time, but by the way, you can at any moment ask us or send an email. And of course, we have this information that we also put at the top between different type of content and different articles. So I think we have a good summary, Paul, regarding this slide.
Yeah. So the requirements for Article 50, as you can see on the screen, like I said, it's not just for visual content; it's also for text or interaction with chatbots. So again, the principle is very simple: is to make sure that nobody gets fooled anymore between what's real and what's not real, and in particular by informing people that they're interacting with AI generated content. So whether you're having a chatbot, people must be informed that they're talking to an AI behind the chatbot. If you're generating content as well, to inform the viewers of that content that it's been generated by an AI, and that's a requirement for the AI generators, meaning the OpenAI, the Chat GPT, and other nano bananas of the world. But as a users of those AI solutions, you have to make sure that disclosure is maintained when you share those files to whoever you're doing downstream. One important part for DAM users and DAM predictioners is that if you modify a real image using AI, specifically if that image has a human being in it, an existing person, so that could be a model for products, but it could be the CEO of your company. And if you, for example, change the background using AI, you have to specifically and show labels on those images to indicate that this image is not real. It's been AI either generated or AI modified. There's actually some labels that you can use to that the EU has made available. It's not a requirement to use those labels, but it's recommended. And then the last piece of the puzzle is that if your system is using or people are exposed to any emotion recognition or biometric categorization system, you must be informed. Biometric means face recognition type of thing. So I know that some dams use that AI face recognition system. So the users of those dams, wherever they are, must be informed that there is a biometric categorization applied to what they're doing. This penalties, it's actually pretty high for that type of things, and it seems that behind it there's going to be, at least in the beginning, some hardcore enforcement. But I just want to add one thing, is that this is only the first step of many other type of legislations that are falling into place, not only in the EU but around the world, in the United States. So being conformant of this legislation now makes it compliant to other legislations that will fall into place much later. So this is not a one-off saying, oh, I need to do this for the European Union or things like that. This is something that will be extended to a lot of other countries in one form or the other. So being respectful of content credential at entry, being respectful of updating those content credentials during any changes done through the process of DAM manipulation, adding, changing IPTC or keywords, and then making sure that that information travels with that files using soft binding like IMATAG's invisible watermarking is not just good for Article 50, it's good for Article 50 and many more legislations that are in place or that are about to be falling into place in other places in the world. So it's not a maybe, it's a must-have.
Yeah, it's maybe one of my questions, because if I'm at the head of a brand worldwide, etc., so how can manage such regulations by where from different countries and different entities, etc.? Is it something that we can imagine workable, or it's a long milestones?
It's workable. I think that once you get the principle into place, it's always the same thing, right? It's keep in mind that the reasons behind all those legislation, it's for our own good, is to be able to recognize what's fake or invented, as opposed to or complementary to what is real and taken by real cameras and light base. And so it's requirements of transparencies, basically on all type of digital media, and making sure that transparency on provenance is preserved throughout the whole life cycle of those digital files. And that's every legislation around the world, basically, that's what they cover. And then there's obviously recommendation on C2PA and the type of fingerprinting and other systems that they feel is the best to apply that. But if you have that core set up, you're protected, or you're compliant, I should say, because it's not a protection, but you're compliant to any form of legislation that is existing and should be.
And something we can say, this is also the DNA of C2P and such organizations, or IPTC or CEPIC and etc. It's really more in order to bring all together suppliers, manufacturers, vendors, etc. Because all in one room, by way to facilitate technology and integration. And of course, maybe it's something for you, or Malika, what it means inside your lab.
Sorry if just before that, I would like just to ask Paul about something. Yes, we are speaking about legislation, and everyone is also speaking that the legislation is in Europe and not in the rest of the world. But I think I have already heard that in California there is something about this, in China too. So we are not alone just to fix this legislation and to try to protect our authors, our content. We are not alone to making this in Europe.
Absolutely. There's already legislation passed in India, very, very similar.
Yeah.
As you say, China as well. There's legislation that is passed in California about transparency, that is about to be instituted. And actually in California, they're going a bit further, because they are requiring camera manufacturers to do the same, and to have signals of provenance when you capture an image, that have to be traveling with those images after the shoot and wherever they go. So it's not just requiring AI generated images to have proof of provenance. Is also light-based cameras or photography equipment to have the same. So definitely yes, and those are the ones on the surface. I think there's about 50 plus legislation of that type being worked upon around the world in different countries. And again, it's to keep in mind, because it can be daunting to think, oh my God, I have to be compliant with all these legislation. You don't have to drill down too much in the details, as long as if you have this path of preserving the information about provenance, and then you update that, and then you make sure that it's preserved on the output, then you're pretty much 99% guaranteed to be compliant with all these legislations existing and coming.
Yeah. Thank you. So maybe one of the last slide we have. So of course, this is more or less what I was saying about this regulation across the world. So same idea everywhere. And it's more or less a couple of milestones that more or less we figured out, and we have to manage, as you can see, since the last 2 years.
Yes. See, we were thinking the same, Malika. This is
yes,
a breakdown of what is the legislation.
I think there is a question from John. When Article 50 is implemented, will this apply to all new images, or also retrospectively to legacy assets that may not have the provenance path?
That's a great question. So no formal legal advice here, but the legacy content cannot be chased around anymore. It's obviously in circulation, so obviously it cannot be applied for that. The same as AI generated have been generating images for the last 3-4 years now, so obviously they can't pull those images back and label them. So no, it's not tied to legacy content, because it would be an impossible task to perform. But great question.
Yeah.
Okay,
certainly, just to add one thing, it's certainly for any image that has not, or asset that is not yet circulated from your dam, it's something to revisit to make sure that before they go out, that information is preserved if you have it. So it's a good time to do an edit of the content, And it never hurts to make sure that you know internally the difference between AI generated assets and the real ones, and then the ones that are in between that been modified. That's always,
Uh,
anyways, a very good exercise to have.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a good exercise for the vendors because if uh, if by the way, if the dam has to be the record of the assets of all the organizations, we have many capabilities, metadata-driven workflows, etc., to reprocess asset to make live connection, etc. In order, we do believe that the dam has to be this record of the asset to protect the brand. By the way, so but as we said, it's so important to it's not about adding some technology at the top. It's more than that. It's really to understand the life cycle of the asset as of today.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but during just I did not answer for the first slide, but on our side, when we implement DAM solutions, it's not today, but we did it since many months, years, that we are asking the contributors to tag the asset that is provided by IAGEN, and then we also embed this information in the IPTC fields. Of course, we can change. Of course, we can remove this information, but we did it, we apply it, and this information is used by the DAM system, and users can find and can refine the asset with this information on the platform.
Yeah, correct. This is really part of the workshops we are doing on the customer side. It's of course we have to integrate to deploy, but it's also important to educate. And I think it's very important. And something maybe I can tell you, Paul, because when we are looking at what can be the next thing, the future of AI, I think it's so challenged. What cooking in the next 6 months by Wes, or how do you see if a brand owner has to put a strategy in place regarding DAM systems, or what kind of advice you can share? Many customers are saying we need to test. So what's your input?
To test what?
In order to test content, AI, etc. Because some analysis we saw, it's 80% of the people are testing AI, just like it's not shadow IT, it's AI shadow, I would say. So how you can, by what test inside your ecosystem in order to protect the content.
Yeah, I think this is a really good time to do an audit of the workflows, right? The AI workflows. We're seeing, you guys are better placed than me to see that we're seeing more and more dams offering AI generated tools inside the dam of a variety of actions and solutions, which is fantastic. But we have to be making sure that in the process, the information of what's been modified, how it's been modified, by who is applied, and like Malika said, embedded into the file, so that historically somebody in 20 years from now could easily look at the same file and say, and clearly identify the fact that this file has been generated or it's been modified, because we can't rely on people's memory and say, oh yes, I remember I generated that, or things, because people move or retire and things like that. So this is a perfect time before it gets too messy to sit down and do an audit where for before it gets into the DAP. Are we generating content, or are we getting content that comes from AI generated, either from suppliers, partners, or anything like that? Make sure that whoever is providing content that is ingested into the DAM, you know where that content comes from, how it's been created, and make sure that that information is already embedded into those files that are being ingested into the DAM. The second part, making sure that your DAM preserves that information, make sure that it's not erased or modified or things like that.
Exactly.
And if it's modified, it needs to show or update that information to say AI has been used in the process of modifying that image, and update that information. And then last but not least, make sure that is travels with that file when it leaves the DAM, when it's published elsewhere. And then, like I said again, using invisible watermark like IMATAG obviously is the best solution for that, because it's always linked back to the asset, whether that metadata is being erased. So multiple audit to be done, but I think the Article 50 is a good excuse to sit down and do
Yeah,
that.
right.
Specifically, like we said, to legacy content as well, before it becomes a problem.
Thank you so much, Paul. So Byware, if you want to go more deep dive, we just released last month or a couple of white papers, a state of AI, what is a core DAM system, DAM and PIM sustainability, which is also important. And for all of these subjects, AI has an impact. So it's very important. So feel free, it's available in English and French on the Activo website. By the way, we will share everything after this webinar recording and links. We also do something like this, so which is you see the digital things, but I've got in my hands our 2026 edition of the Activo magazine. So it's all about also, and we have deep dive articles about AI agents, about what matters. We also a nice article about the NAB, which is always a lot of things are going there, and of course use cases. So everything in one single book, and of course you just click there and get the digital things. Important to remind you that DAM News is the hub of this information, and so we are so delighted to get on the monthly basis, Paul. So thank you, Paul Byware, once again to provide your insight, analysis, and experience at DAM News, and also in French, because of course, and it's important to change more or less the way we are talking to our customers. And DAM News is of course a lot of content everywhere. It's not a race, but it's very important and it's independent. So we are very free to say what we're. So this is the DAM News FR. We have also a lot of videos, so which is part of the DNA of what we are doing. It's all about the contents and something we're advising to the customers who are just applying to us. So Activo.tv with a lot of contents, millions of views everywhere, replays on DAM, etc. And of course, stage is yours, Malika, to end up this webinar with something that we're coding on DAM.
Yes, and all of you are already welcome to our On DAM Paris 2026, and a new location with always thanks to our sponsors that are always present, and also for the different conferences that are leverage our teams. So you're welcome again in Paris at the end of November, 7th and 18th November of this year.
Yes, it's important. It's a new venue. It's free for every customers. You have the privilege to more or less we are trying to gather all the best DAM vendors. It's more than 20, but it's all about also the PM, CMS, technology, etc. It's very deep dive content, conferences, networking. And something we said that we learned from the past is all visitors, we are inside the DAM community. So welcome again, register, save the date, 18th and 17th and 18th of November on damparis.com. So yes. we are now ready. So thank you for your time. Sorry for some late departure, I will say. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Matthew, once again to provide your insights. And so we are all together committed to deliver this stunning connector with IMATAG and DAM system. And of course, thank you, Malika, once again, after 6 years to follow me on these amazing webinars.
Yes. Thank you, Frédéric. Thank you, Mathieu and Paul. And let's just continue to explain and to deliver these messages to our brands to protect their content.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing you at On DAM Paris.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank
Have
you.
a good day. Bye-bye.